The throat chakra governs our ability to express and communicate clear thoughts and ideas. It is also related to truth, maturity, independence, and the ability to trust others. In balance, speaking my highest truth, communicating freely, can also be silent and intuitive. Out of balance, insecurity, anxiety, fear of judgment, powerless to speak out. To balance, chant, sing, or write, explore your inner child, drink soup with warming spices, affirmation. I express myself authentically and clearly. My thoughts are positive and I am heard. Um, it's the next goal, not even because I want spiritual development at this point. I think I'll do a video on this soon. Dry Creek Wrangler School talks about this of like flicking a cigarette on the ground. You keep creating fires you have to stomp out. My mouth has a tendency to do that my whole life. I remember a guy at a program, his name was Brian. He said, he said I was an irritant, aren't I? To the group where it's like I have that tendency, especially in a competitive environment, that I'm kind of not watching my P's and Q's, have a tendency to speak before thinking and getting better, but it's been a lifetime of working on it. But I'm getting serious now as too many instances where it bit me with my ex-wife recently, kind of the tone and the way I wish I communicated something. My brother has told me that often it's not what I say, it's how I say it. And as a man, it's not just that he's not just saying it's a tone thing. It's I have that tendency to be harsh with my language. Even though I'm right, I'll be harsh when expressing myself. Um, so it's like finding the balance of you're gonna have to piss people off, but speaking in a nice way and speaking up for your needs, but also not picking your battles. Um, I am getting a little bit better with that. I've learned, especially in the corporate world, I wait till the management complains at me, then I complain at them. Unfortunately, it's a male thing. A lot of times in a relationship, a girlfriend or wife will. Men, we want to keep peace most of the time, and we'll kind of keep quiet when we shouldn't, just because we know an eventual argument's coming. We're always in trouble. And so then when the woman finally says they have a problem with us, that we use that as an opportunity to talk about our grievances. And it's passive aggressive. I remember my ex-wife once said when we had to deal with her HR team and I was telling her, you need to say this and this. She's like, Sean, I have to work with these people. Like essentially like you have to be constructive. You have to be patient and you have to be gentle with communication. We're trying to maintain the relationship. And I think in the past, I kind of viewed it as like, I'm just going to say what needs to be said. I don't really care if it affects the relationship or not. And as I've gotten older, I'm starting to see the wisdom of by having gentle communication with others, you're giving them, you're showing them that there's a problem, but you still respect them and you're trying to maintain something. And I've gotten a little better. Even my recent run-in with my ex-wife, I did say like I'm not mad. I'm just stating what my needs are, and I didn't, go completely silent blocker or something like that. I just, I just said what I needed to say. Versus in the past, I would go too far. So I think there's a balance of speaking out what needs to be said and maintaining the relationship. It's a thin line between love and hate. There's a thin line between talking too much and talking too little. It's kind of like the Goldilocks effect. You have to talk in the right amount, in the right way, to the right person. And it's good advice where they say to balance chant, sing, or write. I think especially if you talk too much like me, writing is good. I did that for many years, kind of like writing a little mini journal, get the thoughts out. And I find the journaling can be good. At least for me, I've like looked back at stuff I've written 3 or 4 years ago, and either I'm really impressed with myself, like, wow, I really overcome that, or I'll look back and like, man, how immature, or I'll even be like, man, nothing has changed. But most of the time, when I've looked back at what I was going through, you see how far you've come. So it's kind of good to kind of have like a time capsule. The interesting one is to balance, explore your inner child. That one struck a chord with me because I feel like usually people's problems in life stem from childhood. That's why we're like, oh, there was no dad around, there was no mom around. They were abused. Like something happened to you. And like for me with the talking, it's like, why do I talk so much? And I kind of realized like three things. I was neurodivergent, ADHD, one, undiagnosed, no medicines, no Ritalin to calm me down. Two, my parents were also neurodivergent and didn't care about our needs. They were so wrapped up in themselves. We were kind of in an emotional wasteland, just barren. Me and my brother, if it wasn't for my brother, we would have really been in trouble. We would have had no one to talk to. Like our parents didn't really, they had a rough marriage, no abuse between each other, but they were just like, there was not love there really. And it was like a cold house. And they they have like my dad worked for the city, my mom was a nurse, so they kind of just like lower middle class jobs, kind of struggling for a while. And you know our needs were like never we couldn't even talk about our needs because it was always dismissed. So maybe that's another reason I talk too much. And then I think also just environment. I went to I went to Catholic school my whole life up until college. So you're in these cloistered 40 kid classrooms with, you know, minimal, minimal interaction with the world. Like you're only interacting with these certain people. Most of them were upper crust. We weren't, but so I didn't have a lot in common with people. So I didn't get to talk much really in school, really. So growing up. And so then when I finally could speak freely kind of by college, it was too much is coming out. So it's true with the inner child. You have to assess um, why it is. And I had the tendency when I would talk with people, because I was so desperate to talk to someone, I would be people's therapist. They're telling me all their problems. They don't want to listen to my problems, really. That still kind of happens to this day to some degree. And so when I recognize it, I kind of back away from the people, even if I'm close to them, because it turns into they don't really want to hear anything. Despite talking too much, I'm a good listener and I can offer good advice because I'm listening. So people will often come to me for advice or for that. And I realize I'm not a psychiatric service. And so I'm kind of enjoying the silence now. Like this channel, I talk more in one video on this channel than I talk all week. Like I even have stuff where like I enjoy like if I can like not speak to anyone from Friday after work till Monday morning at work, if I don't have to actually use my voice, it's great. I don't even want to speak. It's even in at work nowadays, working from home, I've been enjoying that. I don't even have to open my mouth. Most communication is I am, and people don't want to hop on a call that much. Most of my clients are email, so it's I am afraid to go back to a normal job that I have to talk so much because it's now I'm on the other side of the spectrum with talking too little. I still need a balance. And I like the affirmation that says, I express myself authentically and clearly. My thoughts are positive and I am heard. I think that's a thing for me too. For many years, I wasn't authentic. I was masking myself to be more digestible to people. And I wasn't clear. I talked so much that I wasn't being concise. And my thoughts are positive. Um, I've learned now when I have something negative to say, that old saying, the old moms always say, if you have nothing nice to say, don't say anything at all. Like they say, like everything you learn in kindergarten is how to live life. It really is true. really easy to talk negatively, to complain. And I used to be really bad with that. I still remember in college, even when me and my ex-wife were just friends, I was two times. I remember one time I was talking about my ex-girlfriend. She's like, I'm tired of hearing about her. And then also I was like talking crap about people, and she was like tired of hearing it. And like I've kind of gotten like that too. I recently was like maybe a few months ago talking to this woman online for to try to set up a date, and she was so negative. We just met and she's like complaining about everything, complaining about life and just everything, and it was like a trauma dump, and it turned me off completely, just the negativity. And someone else had written on her profile like a comment about her that said that like she's just too negative, I can't take that. And it's like, and I see how I could have come off when you're that just, you don't want to be toxic. It's a thin line, right? You don't want to be toxically positive, but you can't be negative. You have to be authentic, but authentic doesn't mean it's like the bring your true self to work thing. People don't want to, when they say that, they don't really want your true, like unfiltered self. What they mean is like, you need to be aligned with your values, right? You don't want to do something. You don't want to buy authentic doesn't mean you can just trauma dump on people or be mean. It just means that you're not going to compromise your integrity, compromise your core beliefs because someone's asking you to or pressuring you to. That's how I view authentic. I kind of view it as like business ethics versus morality. Like business ethics means you're doing nothing illegal. That's what really it means. I learned this in my MBA, really. And morality is your personal version or almost a universal version of right and wrong. Like, so let's say, as an example here, you could sue somebody based on a loophole legally, but like morally, it's not an expected thing. It's like it wouldn't be like the average person would think you're being evil to do it, right? So business ethics, you can go ahead. Morality, you can't, right? And so I think at work, and you have to have business ethics. And I think a lot of people struggle with that, where you have to figure out what the moral compass of the company is. Some companies want to be illegal. Some companies don't want to be illegal, but they're willing to screw people over as long as it's done legally. Some companies are willing to do illegal stuff sometimes. So when I'm at a business, I kind of try to see where their compass is pointing. I'm pointing true north. Like I just believe in right and wrong, but morality doesn't work in corporate culture or workplaces. It's kind of like still I don't know. This memory always comes up for me. I remember I was working in a restaurant when I was in like college, high school, and we had like these things called ramekins, and they're like little plastic or metal cups that the ranch goes in for like wings. And I was in the back, and um, a big stack of them fell on the floor, albeit the floor was just cleaned the night before the morning. And the guy saw me picking them up to throw them in the trash because they were plastic, probably 100 of them. And he's like, "No, don't throw them away." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Don't throw them away. Give them to me." And we both gave each other this look. He gave me the look of like, probably he's going to get in trouble for inventory and please do this for him. But he saw it in my face like it's disgusting. We shouldn't serve the customers these. Like, I doubt he's going to sit there and wash each one of these plastic ramekins. So I just hand it to him, but it made me feel sick to my stomach, right? And it's like that's where that line of like business ethics and morality comes into play. Like I was like 16, 17 years old. I was too weak to stand up. I really should have just like not listened to him, thrown him in the trash, but too weak. That's what I kind of mean about being authentic. Like, this isn't right to like let people eat off the floor, right? Someone can get sick from this. I don't care what the business ethics are here. So I kind of feel like throat chakra can help you in those moments. It's business ethics be damned. There's like certain things that are right and wrong, right? So like you don't want your name attached to certain things. I always view it as like the parking lot problem in the workplace, where it's like I don't want to get attacked in the parking lot because of something I did that's so wrong. I remember when I was working at a security company, we had security guards. I was in the office, and I always treated the guards with respect. even though they weren't making that much, and like the owners and all like treated them like trash because like the owners go live in these quiet communities hundreds of miles away. I was in Oakland at the time. Like I'm gonna be out in the world with these guys, and they could like beat me up in the parking lot or something. And I remember one time one of the guys manager screwed him over, and we ran to each other at a 24-hour Safeway at like 11 p.m. at night. And he came up to me a little bit. I was a little worried for a second, but he came up and it was like, "Oh, yeah, this guy screwed me over." Yeah. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah." But like, you know, because I had that positive relationship with these guys, like I didn't create a situation where someone wants to attack me. Because, yeah, the business ethics for their business, they're making money, but the karma you're creating, you can ruin your own life because on behalf of the business, you're like an evil agent. So and back to the beginning where it says communicate clear thoughts and ideas. That's the other thing. The more you talk, the less people listen. So I kind of find being concise is the key. I learned this early in my career with the ball of yarn with executives. If there's an issue, you don't tell the executive everything all at once in an email or verbally. You state the problem briefly with the main points, and they'll ask questions. So it's like you don't want to, you have a ball of yarn, you don't unravel it all into one single string and hand it to them, this big clumpy mess. You hold the ball, you let them pull on it, and they can pull as much string as they want. And I kind of feel like with communication, I found less is more. People will listen more, and also putting the silence back on other people, making them awkward. I've always been the type to let others, I'm talking too much or something, and then they get to play the game of, kind of like rolling their eyes or s- making a sarcastic comment or just the accusation of talking too much can hurt you. So now I find myself not ever allowing someone to say I talk too much. I think the old saying is like if you have to ask if you're talking too much, you are. The answer is always yes. So it's better to be as quiet as possible. You can't learn while you're talking. So you can always talk later if you have something to say. I always find it's better just to listen to the other person and get the information and then go from there. Because especially if you're over talker like me, you have to kind of artificially restrict your conversation. You have to talk much less. And especially in the corporate world, I find I don't even like to go into a meeting without an agenda or I ask the questions prior to the meeting and I'll say something of I just want to have a productive meeting, so let's get X, Y, and Z answered prior to the meeting. So and then I even say to motivate them, we might not even need a meeting if we can get work through this. So I like to kind of get through what we can, not having to go back and forth, like reduce communication and people will be less annoyed. And I like that because it's also related to truth. So that if you're speaking the truth, you can't go so wrong there. I think there's a quote from the Bible, like in Matthew, that says like the farther you get away from yes and no, the devil comes into the conversation, sort of thing. It's like I found that happens to me. Sometimes I'm just talking, and then something that comes out of my mouth that's like partially true or not fully true, or I'm trying to like hedge something, the more you talk, you don't mean to, but something comes out before thinking. So I like that from the Bible. And it mentions it here too, also maturity, because I feel like if you talk too much, people view you as immature. I definitely felt that my whole life where people would think I'm a lot younger than I am. I do have a baby face, but when you talk too much, it's kind of like a childish trait. And I've noticed kind of like the executive presence, they don't talk too much or they're very good speakers. They talk the right amount. It signals maturity too. Like my ex-wife has that. She's a business owner too, but usually the VPs up, I've noticed they have a way of talking where they don't misspeak, you can tell. They don't have a lot of fillers um I know preachers are very good at that. Like my ex-wife church has a preacher where yeah, he doesn't use any qualifiers. He doesn't, he speaks. I just how I said, right now. He doesn't have those filler words. Independence and ability to trust others. I do think by speaking your truth and speaking clearly, you naturally gain independence. And oddly, with the throat chakra, you can trust others more because you're communicating your needs clearly. So you can build trust more easily. Because I kind of find if you don't speak your truth, people don't, it's kind of like the thing where like someone didn't know they upset you. You should have said something, right? So there's like a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So there is a point, and even in corporate, like you have to, they don't want you complaining all the time. But I have found over the years, I've been about 17 years in corporate, um, the expectation is they don't want you to quit without talking to them first. Um, but they don't want you to talk to them and say, if you don't do this, I'm going to quit. The strategy is what they mean is that you're supposed to have brought up the issues in a way that was normal, that you just kind of like, hey, can I get a raise? Hey, can I have this? And they say no. And then you hearken back to that conversation when you're quitting. That's why they say too, when you're quitting a job, what can we do to keep you? And so, if you've already had the conversation, that really helps you because you could just be like, well, we talked about me getting a raise. It hasn't happened. Are you going to give me a raise? And other times too, when I've left an apartment, even what can we do when they're like mold and all this stuff? I just laugh. Like we've already talked about that. So, that's what people mean. You have to say you have to give people a chance to fix the problem. Um, you have without making them feel like it's an ultimatum. That's kind of what the trust with others. You have to stay, you don't like something, and if they continue, you just block them, or you don't go around, or you quit the job, right? You let people know there's a problem. You just don't, go for the nuclear option right off the bat.